Hello and welcome to Brain Power. I'm your host Thomas Trombley, and we'll be discussing topics ranging from current news, world events, and religion. Basically, whatever bit of news that catches my eye. If you have a story you'd like covered here, or a question you'd like answered, send me a message on Twitter at BrainPowerUp. Use the hashtag BrainPowerUp, like the group at facebook.com/BrainPowerOnline, or visit the website at brainpoweronline.webs.com. Today's Sunday, May 24th, and for you astute listeners in my audience, you might notice a bit of a difference in sound quality this time around. I've actually got I have a breath filter that I just recently installed on my microphone, so I'm not quite certain yet where, what kind of distance I should have between me and the microphone. I'm not certain yet what the volume levels should be. I'm still working all that out. But the upside is now you don't hear as much, aside from what I just did. But anyway, moving on, we're gonna start things off with a bit of an interesting story I found. Something I thought it was really funny when I seen it come across my news feed. There was a guy in England who decided that it would be perfectly okay to try and rape a woman. Well, he picked the wrong woman. The news story here reads, a UK woman who'd been taking kickboxing lessons for 2 years didn't cut off Mark Willis's oxygen flow because she thought she'd get some cash out of it. She did it because she was trying to survive. But a judge awarded $785 to the unnamed woman as a tiny token of the court's appreciation for what she has done. Specifically, wrapped her legs around her attacker Willis's neck and squeezed until she rendered him unconscious one night last August. The woman had been walking home in Cheltenham? I have no idea how to pronounce that, but it's some British city. Around 2 a.m. that night, when the 39-year-old Willis suddenly jumped out, pushed her over a garden wall, and climbed on top of her, per the UK Telegraph. The woman wasted no time in trying to escape. Be quiet and do as I tell you and you won't get hurt, were Willis's words to her. She says she cursed him out. I think I said something like, go fuck yourself. Then tried to break his arm with an arm lock. That move failed, and Willis started pounding on her face. The stunned woman then completed the move that would make Willis pass out, a scissor-like hold. I closed my eyes and held it for as long as I could, hoping he would pass out in a few seconds, she told the court. Then I felt his body go limp. I flipped him off, rolled over, and crawled through the bushes to the door of the house. Willis was convicted of sexual assault, and the judge ordered $785 paid directly to the woman, saying, he bit off slightly more than he could chew with this young lady. I think she has to be singled out in some modest way by the court. Once again, when I read that story the first time, I got a bit of a chuckle inside. Just that warm, fuzzy chuckle, just because I'm just picturing the look on the guy's face after he realizes that he just got pwned. I think this is probably the only time I will ever be able to laugh at an incident of attempted sexual assault. It's when the attacker finds the wrong victim to mess with. But, I don't know. Anywho, we are going to move on. Another interesting story that came across. Speaking of stupid people biting off more than they can chew. Here's an example of when it really doesn't pay to be ignorant of science. A vocal and apparently very wealthy biologist and outspoken vaccination skeptic was so confident that not only do vaccinations not work, but the measles wasn't even real. So he made a public bet with the world's scientists that if they could prove the measles virus exists, he'd pay them. Hilariously, one medical doctor obliged. Stefan Lanka, a German biologist, and we should probably use that term loosely, he believes the measles are psychosomatic and therefore exist only in a person's head, made the bet on his anti-vaxxer website in 2011. Lanka's bet is full of bizarre misunderstandings of science, medicine, and even common sense. German newspaper The Local translated the following passage. Because we know that the measles virus doesn't exist, and according to biology and medical science can't exist, and because we know the real cause of measles, we want the reward to get people to enlighten themselves, for the enlightened to help the less enlightened, and for the enlightened to influence those in power. Calling his bluff, a German doctor, David Barden, gathered the most up-to-date and comprehensive research on the study of the measles virus and sent the evidence to Lanka's house. Predictably, Lanka took one look at the combined effort of thousands of scientists, decades of research, and the reams of data compiled and declared none of it valid. He reportedly refused to pay Dr. Barden, who then took the biologist to court. Unfortunately for our intrepid anti-vaxxer, a German judge reviewed the research and, like most rational people, decided that the existence of the measles was fairly obvious. The doctor had fulfilled all the requirements Lanka had demanded, which in this case was probably not all that difficult. Lanka was ordered by law to pay out the $106,000 he had promised. In an ironic twist, Lanka probably did achieve his goal of enlightening people about the measles, having become an international laughingstock. He further discredits an anti-vaccination movement that is built on quackery, dodgy sources, and an ignorance of science. The result of this has been a resurgence in the measles across the world, including in countries which had at one point largely eradicated the disease completely, like the United States and Germany. I mean, this is just one of those examples of stupidity being punished that really makes me happy. Anybody that says that this virus that killed a lot of people and just generally made life miserable for many more people, saying it doesn't exist, I'm glad that he was forced to pay out the money. But I don't know. I think it's good. Anyway, slightly different topic. McDonald's is back in the courtroom again. This time it's not for somebody burning their laps on their hot coffee. This time around it's the McNugget that's on trial, actually. The subject, McNugget, constituted an unreasonably dangerous product when put to use for which it was intended. So read court documents filed yesterday, that would be May 18th, by Zebediah Anderson in relation to a nugget he consumed at a Chicago McDonald's in May 2013. The Cook County resident claims that it contained bone shards that injured him to the point where he had to be taken by ambulance to a hospital. The suit gets graphic in its allegations, arguing the nugget could not be consumed without the risk of impaling and or cutting the consumer in the mouth, tongue, and or throat, and potentially causing additional damage to the stomach, digestive tract, and intestines. Anderson maintains that a proper inspection of the nugget by McDonald's employees wasn't carried out. The Chicago Tribune doesn't specify what Anderson is after, but it notes that Tyson, the meat supplier, is named as one of the defendants. You know, it's really sad because, I mean, in the society that we live in, I mean, with how much processed food we eat and with how much of it is horribly over-processed, like the McNugget, for example. I mean, I've long maintained that the McNugget is made from the same parts of the chicken that even bears spit back out. You know, you really can't be too surprised when you find some undesirable parts mixed in with the meat. That's not to say that it should be okay to have bone shards mixed in with the meat, but really you shouldn't be surprised that it happens. Not only that, but they talk about how a proper inspection of the nuggets, a proper inspection of the nugget by McDonald's employees wasn't carried out. What do they mean by a proper inspection? I used to work at a McDonald's myself. We'd take the McNuggets out of the freezer and you put them in the fryer, and you take them from the fryer and you put them in the box and you give them to the customer. That's it. That's really the extent of the interaction between the employee and the McNugget. It's not like we go through some quality control process where we take every fifth nugget and tear it open and check for, well, in this case, bone shards. It's McDonald's, man. It's you get what you pay for, really. Once again, like I said, I agree that the bone shards should not be in there, but once again, you can't be shocked. Anyway, on a completely unrelated note, there's actually something I never knew. You ever have a song stuck in your head? You just can't seem to get rid of that stupid thing, no matter what you think of, no matter what you do. It's stuck there. Well, there's actually a way to combat that. Reading the news story here. Getting a song stuck in your head is no modern conundrum, with even Edgar Allan Poe complaining in 1845 that it is quite a common thing to be annoyed or even tormented by the burden of some ordinary song, reports the Los Angeles Times. Now, researchers at the University of Reading report that the ordinary act of chewing gum might help alleviate said burden. They've recently published in the Quarterly Journal of Experimental Psychology that at least among the 98 people they surveyed, the repetitive jaw motion behind gum chewing helped participants stop hearing the song they'd just listened to, giving them a 33% greater chance of getting it out of their heads. There are many possible triggers of earworms, from one's emotional state to a visual stimuli, notes Mashable. Imagine seeing a yellow submarine or a red door that someone is painting black. But chewing gum may reduce short-term memory, which in turn can lower one's recall of a song they recently heard. After playing them the catchy tunes Play Hard by David Guetta and Payphone by Maroon 5, we asked participants to try not to think of the songs they had just heard over the next 3 minutes, but to hit a key each time they did. The lead author wrote, "Lo and behold, those who chewed gum reported hearing the song less than those with no activity or who just tapped their fingers. Scientists even say they found the top 10 list of songs that get stuck in your head. And as luck would have it, I just happen to have all 10 of those songs on my computer here. So I've gonna go ahead and give you a listing of them here. Let's have some fun.
No trouble, I'm all about that bass, no trouble, I'm all about that bass. Moving to the moving, and just when it hit me, somebody turned around and shouted, play that funky music, white boy. Play that funky music, right. Now this is a story all about how my life
just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became the prince of
If you wanna be my lover, you gotta get with my plans. Make it last forever.
And that was the top 10 list of the top 10 songs that are most likely to get stuck in your head. The number 10 spot, we've got Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire. Number 9, Locked Out of Heaven by Bruno Mars. Number 8, Surfin' Bird by the Trashmen. 7, Dude Looks Like a Lady by Aerosmith. Meghan Trainor's All About That Bass. Play That Funky Music by Wild Cherry. And of course, the one that everybody knows, The Fresh Prince Rap by Will Smith. Lady Gaga's Poker Face. Number 2 was Wannabe by the Spice Girls, and oddly enough, rounding out the number 1 spot was Bop by Hanson. I do remember, back in the early to mid '90s, or whenever Hanson was popular. I want to say mid '90s. I remember having having that song stuck in my head. Thankfully, not so much anymore, but who knows? I mean, I'm sure there's still some people around that sit there and bop bop ba doo bop baby bop ba. Damn it! Now it is stuck in my head. Maybe I need a piece of gum. Anyway, slightly interesting news here. This one's actually not even really news. But still an interesting story. Unfortunately, I'm gonna really mangle this kid's first name. Tanishk. Tan, we'll just call him. Tan Abraham dreams of one day becoming a Nobel Prize-winning doctor / medical researcher and the President of the United States. That may not be such a stretch for him, since graduating with 3 degrees from California's American River College at the age of 11 isn't such a big thing for me, he tells KCRA. Tan attended graduation ceremonies Wednesday with his classmates, most of whom, a reporter from the station notes, ranged from ages 22 to 65. With his 3 associate degrees in general science, language studies, and math and physical science. Tan was definitely the youngest to graduate from the college this year, and maybe ever. The assumption is that he's the all-time youngest. A representative for the Sacramento College tells the station. So it's not a big deal to Tan, but what about his parents? They may be proud, but they also seem unsurprised by his achievements. After all, he joined Mensa when he was 4, was homeschooled because he found regular school tedious, and graduated high school at age 10 after taking the California Early Exit High School test. His college GPA, 4.0. Even in kindergarten, he was a few years ahead. And then it just went from there, his mom tells KCRA. So now that it's almost summer, how's Tan going to kick back before he starts the next phase of his life? He plans on taking a family vacation and maybe squeezing in an 8-week Calculus 2 course, NBC reports. Personally, I'm looking forward to this. I mean, the only issue that I have is we have to wait 24 more years before this kid is eligible to become president. Generally, you find the people that really want to be president aren't normally qualified to be president. And for that, all you got to do is look at the last 40 years of presidents, and you can figure it out. This one, I would definitely say he's definitely going to be qualified to be the President of the United States, and the time can't come soon enough when we get him. Speaking of the president. This one's actually more involving Obama more than this future president kid. The U.S. and Cuba are actually pretty close to reopening their embassies. The U.S. and Cuba are so close to restoring diplomatic ties broken more than 50 years ago that they're now discussing possible dates to have embassies back up and running. Officials say meetings between negotiators beginning today in Washington will serve to iron out final details. I'm trying not to sound too Pollyanna-ish, a State Department official tells the New York Times, noting specific requirements will need to be met. But I do think we're closer than we have been in the past. Oh my goodness, pardon me. I had a catch in my throat. But I do think we're closer than we have been in the past. And I think my counterparts are coming up here with a desire to get this done. A Cuban official said this week, "We don't see obstacles, but rather issues to resolve and discuss. The country is set to come off the U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism next week." I'm sorry, I had a bit of a chuckle there. Just when I read the word counterparts, just in my head, I'm picturing Cuba and counterparts. I'm picturing the movie A Few Good Men. Was it Lance Corporal Dawson, I believe, was the character's name. The one that fired his weapon against his counterpart on the Cuban side. And like I said, I just flashed that in my head. Anyway, this definitely could not come at a better time. As I covered in the last episode, goodness, I believe it was Jeb Bush that said he was going to try and, he said Iraq was only the beginning. I was very much afraid that if Jeb Bush gets elected, Cuba would be next. But if Obama can restore diplomatic ties, even if we're screwed and we get Jeb Bush, we should be okay when it comes to Cuba. It's just one less battle we'll have to fight. He'll still probably try and go for China or North Korea or Iran, but at least he won't go for Cuba, which, because they're like right there. Yeah. Here's kind of an interesting story for any friends of the ganja. If you live in a state that has not medicinal, has recreational marijuana usage, you might find something new at your local coffee shop. The news story reads, "It was inevitable. With marijuana-infused everything showing up on the market, Yahoo Finance reports that Keurig-style coffee pods are gaining popularity in states where pot is legal. At Uncle Ike's Pot Shop in Seattle, for example, the single-serving pods with 10 milligrams of THC are hot sellers. In fact, the manufacturer that supplies them, Fairwinds, say they now account for 60% of its coffee business. In California, the House of Jane sells its K-Cup knockoffs and otherwise humdrum offerings of medium roast, dark roast, decaf, and mocha. The chain also sells pot-infused instant coffee. They've been a hit, the owner of the Gallery Pot Shop in Tacoma tells the Cannabist of the coffee pods, also from Fairwinds. People enjoy the novelty of it. He adds that it's a natural fit for the area because Washington and coffee, Seattle and coffee go hand in hand. So what's the result of a coffee marijuana counterpunch? I liken it to a Red Bull and vodka, says the sales manager at Uncle Ike's. I had more energy, but I had the relaxation you get from cannabis. It's, once again, personally, I'm not a pot smoker. Never have been, never will be. It's just, I'll admit, I've tried the stuff. I just can't understand the appeal of it. I mean, if I want to be, like, feeling weird and paranoid, I'll just stay home. I don't even know where I was going with that train of thought. Just forget that train of thought. But the idea is I can't understand it. But for those of you that do enjoy it, hey, you know what? It's an easy way to, drink your vegetables, I guess. Drink your weeds. Oh. No, Sampers, I actually picture the scene in the movie Grandma's Boy. It's about a 30-something-year-old guy. He moves in with his grandmother, and he tries to hide his pot because he doesn't want his grandmother to find his weed. So he hides it in a tin, and later on in the movie, the grandma finds this tin, and she doesn't think it's marijuana. She thinks it's loose leaf tea. So she starts to brew it as loose leaf tea, and she drinks it and gets high, and it goes on and on. It's a funny movie. It's a good scene in a funny movie. You got to check it out. Anyway, moving on. Oh, yes. You know what? I'm beginning to think that this is going to be a regular segment in my show now. This is the asshole of the week. Most definitely. This one, I was actually in Caribou, just surfing the internet, and when I read this story, I actually uttered out loud, "What the?" I stopped myself before continuing on with a what the fuck, but still, a Chicago woman who moved to Mexico to continue curing autism with bleach solution defended her miracle treatment against haters and trolls. Carrie Rivera claims her treatment with miracle mineral solution has removed 170 children from the autism spectrum, but her critics say she's poisoning kids with chlorine dioxide. Right now, there is no cure for autism, says Dr. Sharon Hirsch, Section Chief of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry at the University of Chicago Hospitals. There is nothing we can do at this time to get rid of autism. It's a horrible disorder. Rivera says her treatment, which includes dosing children with a mixture of sodium chloride and citric acid to make chlorine dioxide, purges slimy parasites that cause autism. If, in fact, chlorine dioxide were this toxic poisonous bleach, there would be a sea of dead children, Rivera said. How can this be bad if people are healing and nobody's dying? The FDA says the treatment, which was devised by former Scientologist Jim Humble, is dangerous and potentially life-threatening. Proponents say they can tell the substance is working if they become nauseated. But the FDA warns that's what happens when humans ingest industrial bleach. The EPA warns that chronic exposure to small doses of chlorine dioxide can result in reproductive and neurodevelopmental damage, and the Occupational Safety and Health Administration has set guidelines for using the chemical in workplaces. Humble, who quit the Church of Scientology to form the Genesis II Church of Health and Healing, claims in online videos to be a billion-year-old god from the Andromeda Galaxy. He promotes the solution as a miracle cure for cancer, AIDS, malaria, and possibly Ebola. But he also claims he can heal by touch. Rivera distanced her, my goodness, why am I having difficulty speaking? Rivera distanced herself from Humble, but she claims miracle mineral solution cured her own son of autism after he was diagnosed at age 3. My son was immediately looking me in the eyes, he was smiling at me, he was back, Rivera said, almost as if he had come back to the body. Rivera, who describes herself as a biomedical consultant and certified homeopath, claims that autism is caused by yeast, parasites, viruses, and vaccines that can be flushed from the body through strict dietary guidelines and bleach enemas. Autism is treatable, it's avoidable, and I believe that it's curable, she said. As the symptoms go away, the diagnosis fades as well. But physicians say that's simply not true. We don't have a single cause of autism that is linked to a virus or a type of germ or parasite. I feel terrified about a procedure like this that could harm many kids, said Dr. Karen Radwan of the University of Chicago. This story goes on and on for a little bit. Basically, the whole thing is this woman is experimenting on kids, basically. I mean, it's bad enough to experiment on humans, especially when it comes to bleach. She's giving them bleach enemas for... Not only are they humans, they are children. Not only are they children, they are autistic children. I'm sorry, but no, that is absolutely wrong, and it's basically torture. What she's doing is child abuse. You could even almost consider it attempted murder. So, I mean, it's really a good thing for her that she fled to Mexico, because I believe that she should be put in prison. This is absolutely unacceptable, and it should be stopped. So once again, that's why she definitely earns the title of Asshole of the Week here. That is not acceptable. Speaking of assholes and stupidity, Iran's supreme leader vowed today that he won't allow inspection of Iran's military sites or access to Iranian scientists under any nuclear agreement with world powers. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei told military commanders that Iran will resist coercion and excessive demands from America and other world powers. Khamenei indicated that Americans are increasing their demands that international inspection of Iran's military sites and interviews with Iranian scientists be included in any final deal. The impudent and brazen enemy expects that we allow them to talk to our scientists and researchers about a fundamental local achievement, but no such permission will be allowed, Khamenei said in Tehran today. This was May 20th. No inspection of any military site or interview with nuclear scientists will be allowed. Negotiators from Iran and a six-nation group, the U.S., Russia, China, Britain, France, and Germany, have launched a new round of talks in Vienna focused on reaching a final deal that curbs Iran's nuclear program in return for lifting economic sanctions. The two sides reached a framework agreement in March and hope to strike a final deal by June 30th. A fact sheet on the framework accord issued by the U.S. State Department said Iran would be required to grant the UN's nuclear agency access to any suspicious sites. For its part, Iran claims its nuclear sites exist for peaceful reasons and shouldn't have to submit to inspections. Khamenei said interviewing Iranian nuclear scientists would be an affront to Iran's dignity. I will not allow foreigners to interview, which is tantamount to interrogation, the prominent, beloved scientists and sons of this nation. Yeah, see, the problem is when you say things like, no, you can't look at this, I'm not going to let you look at these sites, but I have nothing to hide. It's perfectly fine. I hear the juvenile excuse, when you ask the kid, well, what do you have behind your back? Nothing. I don't have anything behind my back. That's exactly what this sounds like. Now, whether that's actually the case or not, we don't know, because they won't let us look. But it's still just plain ridiculous that this would even be an issue. But what do I know? I don't know. I'm just a simple podcaster. Anyway, moving on. Oh, yeah. Here's another one that's quite painful to read, actually. Both incapacitated and forcible sexual assaults and rape have reached epidemic levels among college women, reads a study out of Brown University. It finds that nearly 1 in 5, 18.6% college women are the victim of either a completed or attempted rape during their freshman year alone. It's an important transition year, says lead author Kate Carey of Brown's Center for Alcohol and Addiction Studies in a post at the Eureka Alert. The study, published in the Journal of Adolescent Health, surveyed 483 women in the freshman class of an unnamed college in upstate New York. Among the specifics, 9% reported an attempted or completed forcible rape. 15.4% reported an attempted or completed rape while incapacitated. Some women reported multiple events. 18% had suffered an incapacitated rape or attempt since age 14 and before college. That number was 15% for forcible rape or attempt. By sophomore year, those numbers were 26% and 22% respectively. Women who were raped before college were more likely to be raped in their freshman year, notes Medical News Today. All told, 37% reported at least one rape or attempted rape between ages 14 and sophomore year. If you swap in any other physically harmful and psychologically harmful event, a prevalence of 15% would just be unacceptably high, says Carey. If 15% of our young people were breaking their legs in their first year of school, we would expect that the community would enhance the safety of the environment. Meanwhile, Emma Sulkowicz, who carried a mattress around Columbia University this year in protest of the school's decision not to kick out her alleged rapist, took her mattress to graduation. Once again, it's kind of odd. Unfortunately, it's odd, but it's odd for a man such as myself to be trying to raise awareness of an issue like this. Because, it only happens to women. Huh. Well, first out, let's get something straight for the record here. Men can be raped too. But this particular news story was focusing on women being raped. And I agree wholeheartedly with what the statistics showed there. 15% is unacceptably high. 5% is unacceptably high, in my opinion. Not only that, but they mentioned the woman who carried a mattress around in protest. Yes, her. Actually, I don't even remember if it. I already closed out the news story. I don't remember if it said it was an alleged rapist or an actual rapist. But either way, that student in question, that person, definitely, yes, should have been expelled. Either an attempted or a completed rape. I'm sorry, but no, you're done. There is no question about it. You commit any felony, you're done. If this kid were to murder somebody, obviously he's kicked out of school. Well, he's going to prison, but obviously he's going out. He's leaving the school. Why is rape any different? That's the question on my mind. Anyway, slightly different topic. Actually, completely different topic. There's actually a lawsuit being prepared to remove "In God We Trust" from the money. And, it's long overdue. We're about 65 years late. 70 years late? 60 years late. It was 1954. Yeah, 1954. One of the founding principles of the United States of America was to be free from religious rule. The Constitution itself reads, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion." So why do religious zealots insist we keep a phrase on our currency that is so profoundly un-American? Another question that can be asked, in which God are we trusting? Considering in a free nation everyone is allowed to worship whatever God they choose, so long as they're not harming anyone. In fact, having a religion is not a requirement. So, by inferring that all Americans are trusting in a deity is a direct affront to freedom itself. And if we allow "In God We Trust" on currency, where does the insertion of religion into government end? There is to be a separation of church and state. This is to protect not just the state, but also the church. I doubt any churchgoer would like the government to show up at their place of worship and tell them how to pray to their God, or carry something at all times that was a misrepresentation of themselves. This separation is for a reason: freedom of religion and freedom from religion. Attacking this issue head-on is Michael Needow, Newdow, who is best known for his Supreme Court case Elk Grove Unified School District versus Newdow, where he attempted to remove "under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance, words that weren't added until 1954. He also cites that having these words on our currency violates the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, a direct violation he's hoping will help him win this case. Once again, I think we are long overdue for that. "In God We Trust" does not belong on our money. And once again, it wasn't even added until the 50s anyway. It's... I just hope that this works. I'm a little sad that the basis for the argument is using RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, just because I would also like to see that repealed as well, just because of the religious zealots, Indiana, pardon, the pious bakers who refuse to make cakes for gay weddings. Yeah. I think that law should be stricken down. That's just my opinion, but that's an opinion I hold very firmly. Anyway, on to my last bit of news here, because we're definitely running short on time. Something that actually kind of interested me a little bit here. Have you ever wondered what near space sounds like? The mystery is solved thanks to a NASA balloon experiment that captured atmospheric infrasound 22 miles above Earth. Infrasound, at frequencies below 20 Hz, is undetected to the human ear, but becomes audible when sound waves are sped up. Sensors on a helium balloon let loose above New Mexico and Arizona in August managed to record hours of audio, including stratospheric signals researchers say they've never heard before. The noise, which I'll play for you in just a moment, sounds like various whistles and hisses, or as grad student Daniel Bowman of the University of North Carolina tells Live Science, it sounds kind of like the X-Files. There hasn't been acoustic readings in the stratosphere for 50 years. Surely, if we place instruments up there, we will find things we haven't seen before. Experts say the noises likely came from several sources: ocean waves, wind turbulence, gravity waves, air turbulence, vibrations from the balloon cable, and a wind farm the balloon flew over. A second balloon experiment this year could offer further insight and capture more intriguing sounds. Live Science notes interest in atmospheric infrasound as a means of detecting nuclear explosions was high in the 1960s, before ground-based sensors became commonplace. However, scientists have more recently explored the idea of sending infrasound sensors to Venus and Mars to monitor weather or earthquakes. So, like I said, we're going to go ahead and play that sound here. Yeah, did you hear that static a second ago? That's the sound of space. So that was the sounds of space, thanks to a NASA probe. Once again, this has been Brain Power. As usual, I'm your host, Thomas Trombley. If you have a question you'd like answered or a story you'd like covered here, send me a message on Twitter at BrainPowerUp. Use the hashtag BrainPowerUp. Like the group at facebook.com/BrainPowerOnline, or visit the website at brainpoweronline.webs.com. I will be back with you once again at the end of the month, May 31st. Until then, have a good one.